Alright, hey everyone, it's Megan with the Lake Monsters team, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to put together the Mystery Circuit Card Kit. So with your mystery kit, you should have received a piece of cardstock paper, a bunch of different colors of pipe cleaners, as well as an LED light and a battery. Some other things you're going to need are a sheet of just blank white paper folded in half, a pencil, a pair of scissors, and some Scotch tape. So if you don't have these materials, feel free to pause the video and go get them right now. All right, so for this kit, instead of following a pre-planned design, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can design your own shapes and your own cool cards, which is why you're going to need the pencil and the extra sheet of paper. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about how the basics of our card are going to work. Now, I'm just going to pick up my battery and my light and just give a brief explanation about how these lights and this card and the circuit itself will work. So with your light, if you just hold it up and take a good look at it, you'll see that one end is just a tiny bit shorter than the other end. So this lets us know which side of the light is positive and which side of the light is negative. The shorter side, so that's this side right here on the right, is going to be the negative side, while this longer side is going to be the positive side. Now, if you take a look at your battery, one side of your battery will have a little plus sign on it, and the other side will be blank. So the side that has the plus sign on it is the positive side, while the blank side has to be the negative sign, just because one side is always one or the other. Now, to make your light light up, you have to match the positive side of the light, so the one with the longer wire, to the positive side of the battery. And you also have to match the negative side of the battery to the negative side of the light. So longer end touching the positive, and then shorter end touching the negative. And then if you pinch it, you'll see the light go off. And now you're probably wondering why this happens. How come if I take my light, flip it around, it doesn't work? But if I flip it around back to where it was the beginning, it works. So to make this light light up, the battery in some ways stores electricity. So to make the light light up, the electricity will leave the positive side of the battery, so it'll leave this side of the battery, and it'll go up, up, up through the wire into the light, and once it reaches the light bulb, it's going to light up. And then it's going to flow to the other side through this wire back to the battery. So you kind of make this little circle. The electricity will start at one place, make a big loop, and then come back around to finish the circle. Now, if you flip the light so that the positive side of the light is touching the negative side of the battery, then the electricity can't go through this part of the light bulb right here. So that means that the bulb ends up not lighting up. But once we change it, the electricity can make a complete circle, and so it lights up, which is really cool. Now, this circular principle is going to be how we decide to plan out our cards. Basically, when we make our cards, we are going to have one side of the design connect to the positive side of the light, which is going to connect to the positive side of the battery, and the other side of the design is going to connect from the negative side of the battery to the negative side of the light. And that's what's going to make kind of this circle in some ways, and it's how we're going to be able to get our light to light up. Now let's take a look at our pipe cleaners. If you take a really, really good look at these, the inside of the pipe cleaner is actually two little bits of twisted metal wire. Now this is really important because electricity really, really likes to go through metal. So you can see that because when you do this to make your light light up? We know that the electricity has to be flowing because we see the bulb light up. And as you can also tell, like these two little legs of the light are also wire. So the electricity really, really likes to go through metal. But it doesn't really like going through other materials. So, for example, if I take my paper and I put it on one side of the battery and I put my light and I pinch it again, you can see that the bulb doesn't light up. And that's because the way I'm holding this, the electricity leaves this side of the battery, goes through the bulb, but once it gets to this side, the metal of the light is not touching the metal of the battery. And because the electricity can't really go through this paper, we don't see our light lighting up. But once you take away the paper, it does light up just fine. Now let's get started on our circuit design. So the way I'm going to make this, I want to make a heart for my design. Now you can make whatever sort of design you want as long as it follows a couple rules. The first rule is that you have to make a connected circle. And I'm going to put my circle in quotes because it doesn't have to be a complete circle. For example, if this is my battery, I'm going to draw it out right here. And this side, this wire, this pipe cleaner, touches the negative side of the LED. I can take this other wire that comes around, I can make it do all sorts of shapes. So maybe I want it to make a little squiggle. And then bring it back in. So this is kind of just a little squiggle shape, but you can see here that everything is connected. If I start at the battery and just follow the line and trace it, once I get to the light, I can just go up. If I trace this line without lifting my pencil up, I can get back to the battery. Now, if I had a design that looked something like this, right here, if I start at one side of the battery and I follow it, go through the light bulb and swirl, you'll see that once I reach the end of this wire, it's not touching the battery. So that's a little bit of a problem, because if the electricity can't get back to the battery, then that also will make it so that our bulb can't light up. So that's the first rule, is that everything has to be connected and it has to make a circle. Rule number 2 is that you have to have separate wires or separate pipe cleaners connect to different sides of the light. For example, you'll notice in these two drawings right here that we have one wire right here and right here that connects this side of the light to the battery. So it's one segment right here. Now, if we go to the other leg of the light right here, then we can see that there's another long piece that brings it back to the battery. Just going to connect it right here, so that way we do have like a complete design. So this segment right here connects the battery to one side of the LED. And now this segment right here connects the other side of the light also to the battery. This is a really important rule to follow, because if we had something that looked like this, you'll see here that one of the legs of my light just is not connected with anything. It's kind of just dangling off in space. And the reason why this won't work is because the electricity is going to leave the battery. It's going to reach this side of the LED. But even though the electricity can go into the light bulb up, it's not really going to want to do that, because once it goes up through the light bulb, it'll just kind of drift off in space, and the electricity just doesn't really want to do that. It wants to find its way back around to the battery. So instead, what would happen in this type of a design is the light wouldn't light up and the electricity would just go here, and it's going to see the light bulb and take a look and say, oh no, the other end isn't connected, so I'm just going to keep following this wire and go back to the battery. And because the electricity doesn't go all the way through the light bulb down to the other side of the light bulb, the light just won't light up. So that's why it's important that these two legs of the light are attached to separate pipe cleaners. All right, so these are basically the two rules that you're going to want to follow when you are designing your card. Hopefully, if this is still a little bit confusing to you right now, wait until the very end of the video. Just continue watching, and hopefully as I build and show you how I created my design, hopefully that'll give you some ideas and help clarify some parts of this process. So I'm just going to turn my paper around, and on this back side, I'm going to start drawing what I want my card design to look like. So I'm going to start with just my battery. Something to note here is that this piece of paper, the reason why I asked you to fold it in half is because once we draw out our design right here, we are going to follow it with our pipe cleaners. So don't draw it too big or too small, because you want to be able to use this exact size that you draw. You're going to want to be able to copy that with your pipe cleaners. And again, I encourage you to watch until the end before you start assembling your cards, just so you can see an example and hopefully, again, get some ideas on how you would end up making your card. All right, so let's see. Right here, I have a kind of peachy pipe cleaner and two really bright pink ones. So I think I'm going to make a heart. And I want my card to be like this. So I want my heart to kind of look like that. Now, you can also flip your page this way and make a wider heart like this, but I feel like doing it like this, so I'm going to keep my paper like this. I'm going to start with where I want to place my battery. So I want my battery to be at like the pointy tip of the heart. So if I make a heart with my hand, where my thumbs are, that's where I want my battery to be. And I want my light to be kind of where my index fingers are tapping each other. So I'm just going to draw a little circle to represent my battery. Doesn't have to be perfect. And now I'm just going to draw my heart. I just want to make a simple heart, just like that. And I want my light to go right in the middle. So right now, this line, because it's all connected, basically represents one single pipe cleaner. But remember that we have to follow rule 2, which is that separate pipe cleaners need to connect to both sides of the light. Or separate, one pipe cleaner attaches to one side of the light, and the other pipe cleaner has to attach to the other light. So now I am going to just erase the center, and I am going to draw my light. And it's going to kind of look like that. Once I actually construct it, it might look a little different, but for now, I'm just kind of approximating what I want my shape to look like. All right, and that's basically it. I now have a really simple design for my card, and it's one that I'm now going to start building. So if you are making this along with me, feel free to pause the video, take some time to think about what you want your designs to look like. So draw them out, have fun with it, and when you're done, feel free to continue. Again, don't forget to follow the two rules, which are that the design should make a complete circle. So if you start from one side of the battery and follow one of these lines, you should eventually come back to reach the battery again. And of course, don't forget rule 2, which is that separate pipe cleaners need to connect to separate sides of the light. So this piece connects from the battery to one side, and on the other side, another wire connects it to the battery. So a configuration like this, where one of the lights, where basically one of these guys, these little wires right here, hangs off into space, that's not going to work. You want to avoid that. All right, now I'm going to start assembling my card. So now that I have a design, the next step is to prepare my pipe cleaners. Now, I think I want one side to be bright pink, and I want the other side to be this kind of peachy, like light pink orange color. So for this next part might get a little bit messy. So if you have a sheet of paper on hand, just to kind of catch everything, that'll make this a lot cleaner. So I'm going to move everything to the side a little bit. And now I'm going to take my first pipe cleaner. Now, if you look really, really closely at the pipe cleaner, again, you'll notice that in the center are these two metal wires that are twisted together very tightly. What I want to do next is remove this excess fuzzy stuff so that I'm left with just the wire on the inside at the ends of the pipe cleaner. I'm going to show you two ways to do this. The first way is to twist the pipe cleaner. So I'm just going to hold the ends, twist, and then I'm just going to gently use my fingers and pull the fuzz out. And this is the part that gets a little messy, so if you have a sheet of paper, I recommend doing this over the sheet of paper. So if it's not coming out, keep twisting, and you can also try twisting in the opposite direction if the fuzz still is not coming out. Okay, there we go. So you can see now that I have just about a centimeter, so like maybe a thumb width of just wire exposed. Just be a little careful with this part because it is a little bit pokey. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. On the other side, I'm going to show you a different technique, but I strongly, strongly recommend that you do this technique of twisting and pulling, because you can see here that we have gotten rid of all of this fuzzy stuff. Like there is no more material trapped between these two wires. Now in the second method, we are going to be using our scissors and just like this, very carefully cutting away the fuzz. I'm going to do it down here. And I'm going to turn my pipe cleaner and snip. And last snip. Yeah. And for this part, if you're using your scissors, be careful not to accidentally cut part of the pipe cleaner off. Now, the reason why I prefer the first method more is because you can see here that there's still some fuzz trapped in between this wire. It's a lot easier for you to see and feel the wire, but there's still a little bit of stuff there. Now, the reason why this can be a little bit of a problem is because remember that electricity really, really likes going through metal, but it doesn't like going through all this fuzz. So what that means is that if you have extra fuzz on your pipe cleaners and you touch your light to it, it's possible that the metal of the light is only touching the fuzz of the pipe cleaner and isn't actually touching the metal in the center. Now, you can avoid this by pressing down really hard and making sure that when you connect these two, they're really well connected. But if you do it the other way, where you twist it and remove everything, then it's a lot easier for you to get good contact between these two pieces of metal wire. So there's my first piece, two methods of removing the fluff fuzz off the ends. You can twist it or you can cut it. Again, I strongly recommend the twisting method. Now I'm just going to do the same thing, but for my second pipe cleaner. Twist. And now what I'm doing is I'm twisting in the opposite direction to tighten up these two wires and make sure that there isn't any extra fuzz that just ends up falling off. So same thing at the other end. Hold and twist. Okay, so that's what the ends look like. They should look like this. Same on the other side. And you can see that this is the one I cut with scissors. All right, the next step is to attach the light. So here is my LED, and this is where I'm going to be following rule 2, which is that I'm going to take one pipe cleaner, attach it to one end of the light, and I'm going to take my other pipe cleaner and attach it to the other end of the light. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to gently pry open my LED so that the legs are a little bit wider. And now I'm going to take my pipe cleaner, make a little cross just right here. So it looks like that. I'm going to pinch down with my other hand, and I'm just going to twist. So I'm wrapping the pipe cleaner and the leg of the light just around each other. And when you're done, it'll look something like this. You can see that they are kind of wrapped around each other. It's kind of hard to tell on camera which one is which, and that's kind of good because it means if you pull, you won't be able to pull the pipe cleaner off. So now I'm going to do the same thing with my second pipe cleaner, but remember I'm going to attach it to the other side of the light. So again, I'm going to kind of make a little X with my fingers. There's the wires. I'm going to pinch down, and I'm going to start twisting these two. And there we go. Now you should have something that looks like this, where you have two really, really long pipe cleaners coming off of a single LED. Now to make sure that you have done this part correct so far, you can take your battery and double check that the light still lights up. So I'm gonna put one side of the battery on one exposed end of the pipe cleaner, and I'm gonna take the other end of the pipe cleaner and pinch it to the other end. Now you can see what I just didn't make the light light up. So what I'm gonna try now is flip the battery upside down so that the negative side is now on top. Pinch, and voila, you can see that it's now lighting up. Now take a moment right now, pause. You can pause the video and just think about how come the very first time I put my battery in, it didn't light up, but the second time I flipped it, it did. So feel free to pause the video, think about it. All right, so I hope you had a chance to think about it. And the reason why it worked when I flipped it is because you'll remember that one side of our light was negative, the other side was positive. And once you add these pipe cleaners on, you also then make one of the pipe cleaners negative and one of the other pipe cleaners positive. So if I put my battery down so that the negative side is on top, so my bright pink one is touching the negative side of the battery, this is what makes it light up. So now what this tells me is that because the light is lighting up, I have my positives on the light connected to the positive of the battery. And I also have the negative of the battery here connected to the negative of the light. So if it doesn't light up on the first try, try flipping the battery around, giving it a few tries. And similarly, also make sure that you are pressing hard on these two end pieces so that way the metal is really touching well. Additionally, make sure that you got a lot of good contact between the wire of the light and the wire of the pipe cleaner. Because remember, the electricity really likes going through metals. And if you don't provide good contact and a way for the electricity to go through that metal, then it just won't go anywhere, which means that the light unfortunately won't really light up. All right, now one of the later steps is now to bend my pipe cleaners in the shape that I want. I'm going to move this to the side a little bit. Those are just all my scraps. And now I am going to bend this into my heart shape. What I'm going to do is put my light where I originally drew it, and I'm going to use the rest of this as a template. So if I push my light here, I'm just going to use my fingers and bend the pipe cleaners to follow kind of the lines that I already drew. So it's going to look like kind of like this. And on the other side, it's going to look like that. So now that's my heart. Now you can stop here, but since I have kind of this extra length on my pipe cleaners, I'm going to be a little creative and I'm just going to keep on bending them how I feel like bending them. So I'm going to bend ends up. I'm going to bring this pipe cleaner under. I've kind of made this, I don't really know what this is. It kind of feels like a pretzel almost. Yeah, but I kind of like it. So now we're going to bring this down. Actually, I'm gonna redo this a little bit. So my final design is going to look something like this. So I just have a heart and these kind of two little, almost like a bow. So now if I attach one side of the battery and I just make it like this, you can see that it starts glowing. If you find out that you kind of run out of length on your pipe cleaners or that you need the pipe cleaners to be longer, you can just keep adding pipe cleaners to either side of your light. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. I'm going to take a fresh pipe cleaner. I'm going to, again, twist the ends and then remove the fluff. I'm going to do it over this sheet of paper so that way I make less of a mess. And there we go. It is totally okay for you to have a little bit of fuzz left on the very, very tip. As long as you have enough of just wire kind of exposed. So to make this a little bit longer, I'm going to undo this. What you do is simply take the end you want to extend and make longer, take your fresh pipe cleaner, make an X just like this, and we're going to twist it together. Just like that. Now I've connected two pipe cleaners together. Again, here, make sure that you are getting the metal to twist with the metal, because that's where the electricity is going to follow. So now if I wiggle it, it's not coming out, so it's good to go. I'm going to put it back on my stencil, and I'm just going to make kind of another circle almost. And I feel like making a circle like this. And this piece is still a little bit too long, so I'm just going to cut it short right here. And now I'm going to prepare this ending to touch the battery. So once again, I'm going to twist. And if you feel like you're twisting in the wrong direction, just go in the opposite direction. Twist back. And now I am ready to put this on my final card. So I'm going to take my cardstock paper, set this template off to the side. I'm going to fold my cardstock paper in half. I'm going to get my tape, and I'm going to start taping my design down. So, upside down or flipped. So I know I want it to kind of sit in the center of the page. So now I'm going to start taping down these upper branches of my heart. So, I'm going to do this. Something I like to do is use extra pieces of tape and make this a little bit longer, just because it gives a little more stickiness and makes it less likely for the pipe cleaners to fall off. So now I'm going to keep taping, and I want my base to kind of sit like this. So I am going to put another piece of tape down here. Press the tape down with my nails. I have a second bit I want to place here. And finally, I'm just going to anchor this last piece. And finally, I'm going to put a little piece of tape on this little circle. just like that. I also feel like my light is popping up a little bit, so I'm just gonna gently tape top of the light down. That wasn't taped well, so I'm gonna redo it. Just like that. Add an extra piece to the side so that way it doesn't fall off. And there we go. If I take my battery, just put one end of it down, and I think it's backwards. I'm gonna flip it. And you can see that our light lights up. And we have a kind of very cool little heart design that we came up with ourselves. So now to secure the battery, you can just use some more tape. Tape the battery down. And of course, you also have to tape this piece wire. Just like that. And if it's not lighting up, you probably need to press down a little harder when you're taping. So like here, I didn't do a very great job of that. So now it's kind of coming off. And that's what the final card looks like. All right, so just as a quick recap, today we made one of our mystery card kits. So in this kit, you will have gotten pretty much a mystery assortment of different colored different colored pipe cleaners, and also an LED light. Now to put together your kit, you get to be the one who makes your pattern. So of course, don't forget to follow the 2 rules. The first rule is that your circuit, which refers to this entire setup right here, has to follow a connected line. Now, even though I have a bunch of complicated loops in this, if I start from this piece of wire right here, I can trace it up through the circle, down underneath, through the light bulb, back up, all the way down, make a small loop-de-loop, back to the battery. So in order for this to be successful and light up, your card and your pipe cleaners will have to make this connected circle from all the way back to the battery. And of course, you also have rule 2, which is that you need to have 2 separate pipe cleaners attached to each side of the LED. Each side, or each pipe cleaner or set of pipe cleaners, will start from one side of the battery and connect to one side of the LED. The negative side of the LED will always be connected to the negative side of the battery, and the positive side of the LED will always be connected to the positive side of the battery. If you follow these rules, you should have no problem putting together a kit like this. And if you find that drawing the kind of layout and design just isn't really working, or you're just not really sure what you're doing, then I encourage you to just pick up your pipe cleaners, pick up your battery, your light, and just start experimenting. Try first attaching one pipe cleaner to each side of the light, pinching it with the battery just to make sure that it still lights up. And then from there, just bend the pipe cleaners however you feel like it, and unleash your creativity and come up with a unique, one-of-a-kind card and design. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, had fun making this and designing this mystery card with me, then please do subscribe to the Lake Monsters YouTube channel for more educational and also fun crafts and STEM content just like this. All right, thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys in a future video.